Hey, welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining for another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. We've decided to join a little bit early. For those of you that are coming in early, I appreciate it. I'm going to run a couple contests. I'm going to give away a little cash before we start the training right at noon. So we're going to do about maybe 5 or 10 minutes worth of a giveaway, and then we're going to jump into the training. And the topic today, I'm going to share 3 ways that you can use video to get more shippers, okay? Because video has become very, very prevalent in marketing and sales and just in the daily lives of everybody, it seems like, in the world since the proliferation of cell phones and smartphones and all that. So without further ado here, really quick, just hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. I'd love to hear from you. Listen to me as we go forward because I do want to dive into some of these giveaways right away. Just so you guys know, I just launched, and what we're going to talk about today, I just launched my about a month ago. I just launched my Freight Broker Bootcamp audio experience podcast. You guys have been asking me for years for audio only content, stuff you can listen to when you're driving or working out or taking a walk. Video is not always conducive to that, consuming that when you're on the road, but I did launch the podcast. The rating and the reviews and subscriptions and downloads have been great. Amazing feedback. Thank you so much. So for the first group, here's how to win $50. Okay. Here's all you got to do for a chance to win $50. I'm going to give away $50 right now. Okay. So lean in, pay attention. If you are not already subscribed to the podcast, meaning you haven't checked out the podcast or you haven't subscribed, if you've already subscribed, I'm going to give you another way you can win. But if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, whether you're on iPhone or Android, if you're on the iPhone, you can just go to the Apple Podcast app, okay? Or if you've got Spotify downloaded onto your iPhone, okay? And you can search for Freight Broker Bootcamp. I need you to do that right now. Pull up your iPhone, pull up the podcast app, search for Freight Broker Bootcamp. You're going to see the Freight Broker Bootcamp audio experience, and that will, you'll see the whole deal. And then you just subscribe. Click the subscribe button, the follow button, okay? It'll say subscribe or follow. Click that button really quick, subscribe to the podcast, and then come back in here and hit me in the comments saying Apple subscribed, okay? But again, this is only for people who have not subscribed to the podcast yet. I'm going to give everybody else who's already subscribed to the podcast another way they can get a chance to win, okay? If you're on Apple, that's what you're going to do. You go to Apple Podcast. If you're on Android phone, right? If you're on an Android phone, you can go to Google Podcasts. You can go to Spotify, any podcast app that you use, any of the popular podcast apps. You can go there, search for Freight Broker Bootcamp, and you can simply subscribe or follow the podcast. Do that now, and then come back in the comments and let me know subscribed. If you subscribed on Spotify, or you subscribed on Google Podcasts, or you subscribed on Apple Podcasts, let me know. And I'm going to give away, I'm going to randomly pick one of you, and I'm going to give away $50, okay? And then we're going to do another giveaway. So while waiting here, okay? While we're waiting, I'm going to give a few shout outs, okay? So that's what you got to do. You got to go subscribe to the podcast, whether you're on Apple or Android. Just go to the podcast app, go to Spotify, go to Google Podcast, or go to the Apple Podcast. Find Freight Broker Bootcamp audio experience. You just search for it really quick and then subscribe, and then come back in here into the comments and type subscribe wherever you did, Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever, okay? All right, cool. And again, this is for people who have not yet subscribed to the podcast. I'm going to do another giveaway for people who have already subscribed, okay? All right. So, geez, we got so many people live here. This is awesome. Thank you for joining me. This is just the early crew, right? So we got a lot of people who've joined early. The actual training doesn't start until noon, so we still got about another 10 minutes or so before the training starts. But thank you guys so much for joining. If you're on a PC, you can also do Spotify or you can do Google Podcasts. Probably the easiest one for you might be Google Podcast because, because they have a really good web-based one. You don't have to, and you probably have a Google account. So I would say Google or Spotify, you could also do online. If you're online, you can also do iTunes. You'd have to set up an iTunes account for Apple. That's kind of how the Apple Podcast works. If you go to Apple Podcasts, you'd have to have an iTunes account. They're free, but if you have an iTunes account, you'd be able to do it online as well. All right. All right. All right, cool. So we got a bunch of people subscribing. Awesome. And again, this is a, an honor policy here, right? We're just assuming that you guys are actually doing what you're saying. And then I'm going to randomly pick one person here in a minute, and we're going to do the giveaway of $50. And then we're going to go on to the next giveaway. And then after that, if we have time, maybe we'll do another one. If not, we're going to jump right into the training. Okay. And for those of you that are joining me live today, we're going to be talking about 3 ways to use video to get more shippers. Okay. As a freight broker or a freight agent, we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can use video to get more shippers. All right. So, all right, cool. So we got people on Spotify. We got people on Apple. We got a lot of Apple people. That's awesome. Yeah, Apple's so easy. Apple dominates the podcast space for whatever reason. Probably because they have the podcast app natively installed on all of their phones. So, everybody, that's how people find it. All right, cool. All right, so one more minute, then we're going to do this first giveaway of $50. Now, if you are the winner, okay, all you have to do, if I do pick you, just to get this out up front, you're going to need to go to the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page, message me with your name and that you won the contest and that and your email so that I can PayPal you the money. Okay. I apologize from last week. The people did win. I promise you I'm going to give the money. I had a little bit of a technical issue with my PayPal account, so I'm going to be sending those out hopefully today or tomorrow as soon as the tech people get back to me. But for those of you that win this week, I assure you, you'll get your $50. I'll PayPal it to you. You just need to send me the correct PayPal email. Make sure it's the correct one. Otherwise, there's much I can do, right? If I don't have the correct account. All right. So here we go. All right. So I'm going to scroll through here randomly and not very scientifically. I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going through the feed and I'm going to randomly pick one person. And the winner of the contest is Jeremier D. Ball. Jeremier is the winner of if I murdered your name, I apologize, of the $50. So you win $50 for subscribing on Apple Podcast. But for those of you that did subscribe, don't worry. I have another way that you guys can win. Okay. So, Jeremier, here's all you need to do. Go to the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page and message me your name, your PayPal email, and let me know that you won the Apple Podcast subscribe contest for $50, and I will PayPal you the money, okay? You'll get that money. Typically, I'm able to send that money out within 24 to 48 hours. I'll shoot it over to you. Congratulations. Thank you for participating. Check out the podcast. I can't wait to hear your feedback. All right, so that was for the podcast subscribe contest. Thank you so much for everybody who played along. And if you guys want a chance to win, subscribe to the podcast. There's different stuff that I do. Plus, I give away all this free content on audio. It's absolutely free. It's my best of my best of my best freight broker training content that I've aggregated over the years. I mean, this is the top things from YouTube, from things on my Instagram, from things on Pinterest, from things, everything, all of everywhere that I've shared content and in video or audio format, I'm aggregating and I'm putting all this into an audio format for you guys. So I put a lot of time and energy into it. I hope you guys enjoy it. The ratings and reviews have been great. Okay. So the second contest, we got 7 minutes. All right. So the second contest is this. Listen, if you want a chance to win $50, all right, because it's going to be the last contest for today. I don't think we're going to have time. If you already subscribed to the podcast today or in the past, right, or you want to subscribe right now, what I want you to do, if you're on the Apple Podcast, I want you to go in and do a quick rating and review. If you go into the podcast and hit, you'll scroll down and you'll see where it gives you the chance to rate and review the podcast. Do a quick rating and review. It'll take you 15 seconds. Okay. If you're on Apple, rate and review the podcast and then come back in and then type Apple rated and reviewed. Okay. That's what you need to type into the comments below. Okay. And that'll let me know that you rated and reviewed, and that's going to enter you to win the $50. If you're not on Apple and you're on Google or Spotify, here's what you got to do. Google and Spotify do not do ratings and reviews. Don't ask me why. I have no clue. I think it's completely stupid, right? But in any event, they don't allow you to do ratings and reviews. So if you're on Apple or Spotify, here's what I want you to do. Pick the most recent episode or pick one of your favorite episodes, and I want you to share it on social media. Share it on your Facebook. More importantly, if you belong to different groups, different freight broker, freight agent, trucking, logistics related groups on Facebook, then share it inside of there as a resource for other people to tap into to get the free information and free training. And then come back in and type shared wherever you shared it. Shared it on Facebook, shared it on Pinterest, shared it on Twitter, wherever you shared it, but share the podcast somewhere and then come back in here and type wherever you shared it. Twitter shared, Facebook shared, whatever. And then you're going to also qualify is one winner for the $50. Okay. I'm going to give away one winner, $50. And then we're going to dive into the training. That's why I did this early, because I know a lot of people just want to kind of really get to the training part. But I like doing these giveaways a little early, creating some awareness, let everybody know that I do have that audio podcast out there. And so if you're on Apple, rate and review the podcast, come back in and rate it and reviewed. Okay. If you're on Google or Spotify, I want you to go into the app on your phone and share the stream. Share it on Apple, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever you want to share it, but share a recent episode and then come back in here and type shared wherever you were able to share it. You got to make sure you tell me the platform that you shared it. I'd like to hear that. Okay. All right. So we got people that subscribe, but I don't have anybody coming back in here telling me they did ratings and reviews. If you're an Apple podcast user, right? If you just subscribed, or whatever the case may be, you can go in there into your phone and you can hit rate it, just pull up the podcast and it'll give you a chance to hit rate and review. And then you can just simply rate the podcast and do a quick review. It'll take you 15 seconds. And then, and that's what qualifies you for being a part of the contest. Okay. A chance to win the $50. All right. And then we're going to dive into the training. All right. So we've got a few people that have done rating and reviewed. All right. Gene shared on Facebook and rated and reviewed. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Jenny reviewed it. Michael rated and reviewed it. Awesome. Cool. All right. So if you're not able to rate it and review it because you're not on Apple, again, only Apple does rating and reviews. Google and Spotify don't. Share the podcast. All you got to do is click next to the episode that you like and just hit the button and it'll give you the ability to share. You click share the episode and then the choices. You want to share it by text, you want to share it through Facebook, you want to share it on Slack, you want to share it via email or Twitter or whatever, wherever you want to share it, it'll give you the ability to do that right inside the app itself. It's super simple, okay? All right, and then come back in and let me know that you actually shared it. Lakita, let me know, where did you share it? You get hashtag shared, but let me know where you shared it. That'd be great. Let me grab a quick drink, and then we got about 2 more minutes. We're going to do the giveaway, and then we got 2 more minutes, and then we're going to go dive into the training. And again, for those of you that are just joining me, today I'm going to talk about 3 ways to use video to get more shippers, that freight brokers and freight agents can use video to get more shippers, okay? So lean in on this because this training, it's something I've never covered before, but it's a very important and timely topic, okay? Okay. All right. And just know, guys, when you rate and review the podcast, I will see the ratings and reviews, right? They don't show up today, but they'll show up by tomorrow. Okay. So I'm really counting on you to just be honest about it and just be honest about your rating and reviews. If you didn't like it, tell me. I mean, I just want an honest review. That's all I'm looking for. All right, cool. So here we go. We're going to give away $50. All right, here we go. I'm going to randomly scroll through here, close my eyes. We got the people who rated, reviewed, and here's the winner, Amanda Zahn, the gamer. Amanda Zahn, the gamer, rated and reviewed the podcast. Thank you so much. Amanda, I'm going to send you $50. Here's all you got to do in order to get it. Go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. You got to go on Facebook. I think you're viewing through YouTube. Go on the Facebook page and then type in Freight Broker Bootcamp. You'll find out the page, not the group, but the page. And then message me that page with your name, your PayPal email, and let me know that you won the Apple rating and reviewed contest for $50, and I will send you the money through PayPal. Okay. So you got to make sure you have your name and your PayPal email and let me know that you won the Apple Rate and Review contest for $50, and I will send that off to you in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you everybody for participating. I've been doing a lot of these giveaways lately as a way to just try to create awareness about the podcast. Again, everybody who's checked it out, I've had amazing feedback. Appreciate everybody who joined early here to be a part of the giveaway. But now, okay, we are going to dive into the training. So we got a lot of people that are probably just coming on live now. So for those of you that won, congratulations. And thank you for checking out the Freight Broker Bootcamp podcast. For those of you that are just kind of logging on now and are just getting ready for the training, hit me up in the comments with the city and states that you're logging in from, okay? Hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. I'll try to do a couple shout outs before we start the training, and then we're going to dive right into the training. And again, today we're talking about 3 ways freight brokers and freight agents can use video to get more shipping clients, all right? So what do we got here? Who we got with us today? Man, we got people from all over. I'm so glad that people are loving the podcast. I spent a lot of time and energy and money putting it all together. Jacob, Jose from Long Island, welcome. Reality and me from St. Louis, congrats for joining. Thank you so much for being here. Amira from Lawrence, Georgia, welcome. Chris Lee from Uniontown, PA, welcome. Stacy from Tampa, Florida, welcome. Jake Johnson from Houston, Texas, thanks for joining. Brian Chi from Austin, Texas. Michael Wallace from Johnstown, Colorado. Mike Frisco from Du Bois, PA. Michael Figueroa. Oh, awesome. Thanks for sharing on Reddit. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's awesome. I didn't even think about Reddit. I should have said that. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I know your time is valuable. Holy cow, I just spilt my whole pile of silver quarters. Sorry about that. I know your time is valuable. So I'm going to take another minute here to do a quick shout out, and then we are going to dive right into the training. And for those of you that are just joining me, I'm going to be sharing 3 ways that freight brokers and freight agents can get more customers using video, can get more shippers using video. Okay. Welcome, Carter from Rochester. Welcome, Army Co from Cove Spring, Florida. Welcome, welcome, Michael from Chicago. Welcome, Sherry from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I'm humbled that you're willing to be here and take time out of your busy day, especially in the middle of the day, to tune into these Freight Broker Bootcamp lives that I do every Monday. Appreciate you guys being here. So let's dive into the training. Okay. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 ways that freight brokers and freight agents can use video to get more shippers. All right. But first, before I dive into how, I'm going to dive into why. Okay. I think it's important to set some context on why video is important, right? So I gathered a couple of stats. I did a little bit of research, and I think it goes without saying that, the numbers prove it out, right? And statistically speaking, 71% of salespeople that use video as a part of their sales process say that video way outperforms text-based messaging, whether that be through LinkedIn or through email or through some other social channel or through LinkedIn. Ultimately, what 70+% of sales professionals say is that video outperforms text-based messaging. Now, why? The fact is, it significantly increases not only the open rates, but also the click-through rates and also the response rates. So across the boards, it dramatically and significantly increases the rate of opens, click-throughs, and responses, right? Video is how we have learned to communicate. It's how we've learned to consume our content. It's what we're used to. It's what we're comfortable with. Everybody has ADD. Nobody wants to read some big, long email or big, long LinkedIn message or some sort of crazy long voicemail, right? So ultimately, there is definitely some strategies to leveraging video. So I'm going to share with you 3 ways that you can use video to get more clients. As a matter of fact, I'm going to probably throw a couple bonuses on. If you stick around to the end, I think I have a couple of bonuses. I have 4. I actually have 5. So there's 3 core ones and then 2 bonus ones if you stick around to the end. Okay. So the first one kind of goes without saying, but it's sending cold outreach messages. So a lot of people like to connect with prospects through email or through LinkedIn or through different social channels, maybe even Instagram, right? Maybe not so much for freight brokerage. I see a lot of freight brokers and freight agents using cold email and LinkedIn messaging as a great medium, as a great channel to engage and start a dialogue with their prospect. But nothing does or starts that dialogue better than video, right? Video is how people, again, are used to consuming content. It's how they prefer to consume content as long as it's short, especially in cold outreach. So if you can create a 60-second or less video that you send out to a prospect as cold outreach, you're going to find that you're going to get a higher open rate, a higher response rate, and a better overall progress with your sales effort by leveraging video in your cold outreach. Again, the 2 primary channels that I see people in freight brokerage and freight agency using this the most, where I used it heavily, was through LinkedIn and through email. Now, when I first started my freight brokerage, there really wasn't video email. I mean, video was out there and email was out there, but video and email together, it wasn't nearly as easy to create those types of videos as it is today. Today, you literally have a smartphone. You can create a video in minutes, as opposed to back then, it was very time consuming. So ultimately, using it in your cold outreach is a primary way to do that. Again, a lot of people use cold email, but if you use that cold email in conjunction with video, it has a much, much bigger impact. So that's number 1, is using it through your cold outreach. All right. Number 2, reconnecting with an old prospect. So let's say, for example, you haven't spoken to a prospect for 30 or 60 or 90 days or even longer. And for whatever reason, they're not picking up the phone, they're not responding to your normal emails, and you haven't been able to re-engage them. Video is a great way to rekindle that conversation, right? Because again, it's one-to-one and it's very compelling when you say it in video, right? Not only that, it differentiates you from the crowd, right? Very few freight brokers and freight agents are out there in the world today are using video as a way to be different, as a way to engage their prospects, as a way to differentiate themselves, as a way to deliver a compelling message. Very few people. If I were in freight brokerage today, I would heavily be using video, right? I sold my company back in 2016, but if I had my freight brokerage today, I would heavily be leveraging video and the video tools that are out there. I'll probably do another video later about some of the tools you can use to do video emails and video outreach, but I'm not going to have time for it today. So yeah, so that's number 2, is reconnecting with an old prospect, right? Reconnecting with a prospect you haven't been able to touch base with for quite a while. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is to leverage recent news or some sort of recent news as a way to start a dialogue. So let's say, for example, you have a prospect and, whether they be a new prospect or someone who's been a part of your pipeline, and some sort of big news comes out, industry news or some news about the company, and you can leverage that news as a part of your video, right? As creating context around that news as a way to start a dialogue, right? So it becomes very compelling. Let's say, for example, a company acquires one of your prospects. You get a notification or an email or a message or something that says that one of your prospects has acquired another company in their industry. That's important sales trigger. That's important sales intelligence that you can then use to leverage, especially in video. Again, if you use video as a way to create some context or messaging around some recent news, whether it be about the company or whether it be about the industry, it's a great way to deliver that because, again, it differentiates you. It makes you stand out from the crowd. So that's number 3. Number 4, and one of my favorite ways to use video to get more customers is video testimonials from your customers. So if you're looking, listen, there's an old adage. When you say it about yourself, it's bragging. When somebody else says it about you, it's proof. I think Jeffrey Gitomer coined that phrase, and he's been a sales mentor of mine for a long time. since back in the early 90s. So video testimonials are very powerful. They're a great way to build credibility and to have your customers sell for you without actually having to get on the phone. Imagine if you got a video, if you were a prospect, a shipping prospect, and all things considered equal, someone had a written testimonial and they sent it to you, or somebody had a video testimonial. The video testimonial is way more compelling. Now, any testimonial or recommendation from a client is powerful. That's social proof, and it's hard to outdo that, right? Social proof is one of the best forms of marketing out there, okay? So social proof is powerful, but video social proof is exponentially more powerful than just the written word. So that's number 4, is using customer testimonials on video. And last but not least, number 5, this is one that I think is definitely way underutilized, and I don't think anybody is using it. And it's by providing more context to your freight quotes. So let's say, for example, you have a prospect or a customer, right? Either one, that's asking you for quotes around a specific lane or a specific project or a specific movement, and they're looking for freight quotes. What you could do, in addition to providing the quotes in writing, you could also add some video context to it to layer on top and to point out the obvious components and the important elements of that quote. And not only that, but to give them some additional comfort that you are not only quoting the freight, but you don't quote just to be the cheapest. Whenever you quote the freight, it actually comes with a truck, and that you have a very high probability, 99% chance that you are going to cover that load, pick it up on time, deliver it on time in good condition with no problem. So I think creating some context and using video as an add-on to freight quotes that you're providing to customers and or new prospects can be a great way to increase the engagement, can be a great way to stimulate a new conversation over the phone, and can be an incredible way to increase your conversion rates when it comes to getting more clients and getting more sales. Okay. So those are the 5. Okay. I gave you 3, then I gave you 2 bonuses really quick. Sending out cold outreach. Number 2, connecting with old prospects. Number 3, leveraging recent news as a way to use video to create some context there. Number 4 is customer testimonials on video. And number 5 is adding it as a part of your freight quotes to add some additional context and coloring to the quote that you're providing them some assurity that you are ready to go, fully competent, and that they're not going to have any issues by outsourcing it to you. So those are the 5 ways that I would recommend that you as a freight broker or freight agent use video to get more clients. But here, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're curious, if you're sitting here on this live or on this, watching this video, and you're not quite sure where to go next, you want to be a freight broker, you want to be a freight agent, but you're not quite sure where to go, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. It's my online freight broker and freight agent training program. Been online for over a decade, trained over 10,000 students, and we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee if for any reason you're not 100% satisfied. So you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Wherever you're watching this, whether it be on YouTube or wherever it is, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all the future videos. Thank you guys for joining me. Now we're going to jump into some Q&A. Okay, so we're going to do some Q&A as always. For those of you that have questions about the video or questions about getting started as a freight broker or a freight agent or about the Freight Broker Bootcamp course, this is now going to be your time to ask those questions. I'm going to answer them live. I'm going to stay on here. Hopefully, I'll be able to stay on here for another 15 or 20 minutes to do some Q&A. So if you have questions, type them in the chat box, okay? Let me know what your questions are, and I will do my absolute best to try to answer those questions, okay? So hit me up in the chat box. Let me know your questions. For those of you that won on the free giveaway on the front end before we started the training, make sure you message me on Facebook and let me know what I told you before so that I can get that $50 prize out to you for participating and winning in the contest. For those of you that have not checked out the Freight Broker Bootcamp podcast, you're absolutely missing the boat. It's 100% free. It's something you can listen to when you're driving. It's something you can listen to when you're working out, when you're walking the dog, when you're hunting. It's funny enough. I have earbuds, and sometimes when I'm hunting, I actually have a podcast playing in the background because, depending on when you're hunting, you have a lot of downtime. So yeah, so depending upon what you guys are doing, audio format content, this is my best of my best training content out there. Okay. So I hope you guys check it out, give it a rate and a review. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Jump into some questions. Let's see what we got. Okay, so here's a question from Yadalis Ramos. Okay, I'm sorry if I did a bad job on your name. I apologize. All right, so how does the training work? Okay, so Freight Broker Bootcamp is an online, go at your own pace, self-paced training program that's fully online. You do not have to wait for instructors. You don't have to travel. You can do it all from home. It's 100% remote. It's very affordable. And again, we offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. So, you enroll in the program. It's a paid program. You can check it out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. You will instantly get access to log in, and you can instantly access all of the training, all of the articles, all of the lessons, all of the videos, all of the forms, all the contracts, everything, all of the templates, all the bonuses. You can instantly access all of that. Okay. All you have to do is enroll, and within just a couple minutes, you'll get an email and be able to log right in. Okay. So I hope that helps, but it is a self-paced course. You do not have to travel, and you do not have to wait for somebody to come in and train you live, right? Where you have to have a specific schedule. You can do it at 12 o'clock at night, or you can do it at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can do it whenever you're free. You can do it on weekends, weekdays, whatever. It's totally up to you when you consume the training. So I hope that helps. Okay, so Ren Perez asks, so if we're having trouble getting a surety bond, what route would you suggest we do? Well, there's really a couple routes. One, if you're struggling with your surety bond, you need either, I'm assuming it's credit related in most cases. As a freight broker, just so you guys know, you're required, if you are going to become a licensed freight broker, you're going to have to get a freight broker surety bond. Okay. And in order to get a freight broker surety bond, they're going to run your credit. So if you have bad credit, then what happens is you may not get a bond at all, or it may be a higher premium and a higher cost. So if you can't afford or you can't qualify for the surety bond, all you can do is try to increase your credit and then have them rerun it and re-rate it. Now that usually doesn't happen quickly. So in the meantime, what you can do is if you're not ready or in a position where you can get your freight broker license, start out as a freight agent. I tell people this all the time. People don't believe me. Just so you know, I've had individual freight agents that worked for my company that made over $100,000 a month in commissions. We paid them over $100,000 a month in commissions. Our average agent made over $100,000 a year working from home. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that you'll make $100,000. I'm definitely not guaranteeing you that you'll make $100,000 a month. Matter of fact, you may not make any money, but here's what I know. If you can't make money as a freight agent, you're not going to make money as a freight broker because it's way easier, way less risk. And yes, you make a little bit less, but at least you get a chance to get your feet wet. You get to build your customer base. You get to learn the ropes. You get to start making some positive cash flow without having to jump through all the hoops of becoming a freight broker. Okay. So starting out as a freight agent is a great way to go. So that would be my recommendation. Hope that helps. Okay. So Carter asks, does a freight broker need separate licensing for hazmat materials? No, there is no licensing for hazmat materials for brokers. The carrier needs to have a hazmat placard. They need to have that as a part of their qualification. So you can't just load any carrier with hazmat product. Okay. So they have to have what's called a hazmat placard. They have a hazmat certification where are allowed to haul hazmat related products. So hazmat is a niche. It's a great niche. You're dealing a lot of times with chemicals. And so, yeah, it's a very good niche, but the carriers that you're going to be able to pull from there are all going to have to be hazmat certified or have a hazmat placard. But brokers and agents do not have to be certified. Now, I would recommend you, if you choose hazmat at your niche, to seek out some expertise and some training specific to Hazmat. There's some stuff online where you can go through some Hazmat certification, but it's not required as a broker agent. But because of the complexity of it and because of the nuance associated with Hazmat, I would strongly suggest that if that's your niche, you make sure you fully educate yourself. Okay. So I hope that helps. Thanks, Carter. Okay. So Jenny asked, what exactly can I say on the video? Well, it depends on the video type itself. I did give you some examples, but if you're doing cold outreach, you can say very much what you would say in an email, but in a video format, right? So typically what I would do is I would come up with some sort of a sales hook. That's the process where you teach and create a compelling angle that differentiates you from your competition. So if you come up with a sales hook, whether that be some recent information about the company or whether that be a specific challenge that the industry is facing, or whether that be a piece of news that is relevant to the prospect. I mean, there's a million different things you can say, but the key is whatever you could say in an email, you can say in a video better, okay? And it's very simple. I mean, LinkedIn, for example, has a video component right built into it. So you literally open up the LinkedIn app, go to Messenger, and you can shoot a video directly from your phone. It goes directly to somebody on LinkedIn. Now, that doesn't help you on email, but I mean, that's how easy it can be. And almost every computer has a webcam. And so ultimately using video can be a great way to enhance any sort of messaging that you might use in a sales call or in a cold outreach. So there's a million different options you can use. Those are some examples that I think might work for you, Jenny. Hope that helps. What's the best way to rate a shipper given the current market, carrier market? Carriers are expensive these days. The only way to effectively provide freight rates today where they're accurate and timely is to talk to carriers that are specific to that lane. So you can go on the load board and post a load and take inbound calls. You can go on the load board and see trucks that are posted in that lane and you can call them. Or you can use what's called lane makers, which is like a lane history that most boards have, where you can go in and see carriers that have posted trucks in that lane over a 30, 60, 90-day period of time. And you can do outreach to them, contact them, and find out, kind of what the going rate is. Now, when you do that, the key is you don't ask them what the rate is, right? You got to do a little bit of research in advance. You start a little bit low. And then the goal is you start low, they start high, and you meet somewhere in the middle to try to negotiate what the real bottom is. You want to find out what the market rate is, what the spot market rate is. So trying to provide long-term contract rates in this type of a market, in most markets, is very challenging. So these are spot market rates that are typically going to be good for maybe a day or a week, in most cases. And so ultimately talking to the carriers, talking to the drivers is the best way to determine what the spot market rate is going to cost you so that you can add your markup and then provide that as a quote. So I hope that helps. All right, hold on a minute. Oh boy, we had a lot of people fly through here. Hold on one second. Yeah, so question from Islam. How do we make sure our cold emails don't go to the outreach spam folder? Well, I would do some research on Google and ask that question. I'm not sure. I mean, a couple of things is obviously don't have spammy titles, right? Or spammy words inside of your email. Don't add too many links. Don't add too many images. Those are always red flags. Your email itself needs to be a trusted email, meaning, it's ideal if it's coming from your own domain and that domain is not on any sort of a blacklist, right? Or email blacklist. They're suppressing the messages from being sent or going to their inbox. Those are a few. I would do some research on Google and try to do a little bit of research about what some of the most recent techniques and strategies are for preventing emails from going to the spam box. And there's a ton of information out there about that. The good thing is that in most cases, corporate emails, they're not Gmail accounts, right? They're corporate emails with their own domain name, like xyzmanufacturing.com, whatever that is. So they're less likely to go to those spam and promotional folders, but they can go into the spam box. I would try to keep the titles short. I would try to keep the messages short. I wouldn't put too many images in there, and I wouldn't put too many links. Those are a few examples. All right. Lisette Perez asks, when will the sales training be available? What Lisette and others are asking about is my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. I launched Freight Broker Sales Accelerator earlier this year. It was a huge success. We've had 2 cohorts that have both sold out, like literally almost overnight. Okay. So I've done 2 programs like that, and I'm planning on doing another one. The challenge is timing is difficult this time of year for me. I'm hoping to have it released in November. Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, where I take that piece of my brain and I share everything I know about my freight broker sales strategies, tactics, and systems that you could use and leverage to get more shippers to grow your business. Okay. So that's where I take it's like a coaching and an online training program where I teach you that entire thing. It takes 5 weeks. It's a 5-week program and you have unlimited lifetime access to it. I haven't opened it up yet, but if you're curious about it or you want to get on the wait list, I can tell you it's going to sell out as soon as I open it up. But if you want to get on the wait list, you have to go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com wait list. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. Just so you guys have it in front of you. Okay. Yeah. So here, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist if you want to get notified when the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator opens. Okay. I'm hoping it's going to happen in November. Okay. And if it does, that'd be fantastic. I'd be so excited. And I'm ready to definitely share and help you guys out. But timing is difficult this time of year for me. So if you want to get notified, I promise you, the only way you're going to get a chance to get in the program is if you're on the wait list. If you wait for me to send it out via email, it's probably already too late, right? Because I limit this course usually, depending upon the timing, to 50 to 100 people. And it literally, it's sold out overnight. Less than 24 hours. The first time I released it, it sold out in less than 24 hours, okay? It's not a free program. It does require an investment. Last time I released it, it was $1,000. It may be more this time. I haven't finalized that. But I can tell you that whatever you invest, it's going to be worth 10 times it. So let me give you an example. I surveyed all of the people that have taken that course, well over 100 people that have taken the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. And the feedback, I asked them to rate it 1 out of 10, 1 being horrible, 10 being amazing and the best. And the ratings came back after all of those reviews at a 9.7. Now, I was hoping for an 8, okay? We got a 9.7 out of 10. Which is insane. Okay. But ultimately, that's the type of feedback people have given me from the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. So get on the wait list if you guys are serious about learning my freight broker and freight agent sales process, because it's really more about a system and a process. Not only does it teach cold calling and closing and follow-up and multi-touch point outreach and a lot of very nuanced stuff, creating your sales hooks and retention strategies and growth. There's so much involved in that course. It's amazing. So if you want to get on the wait list, check that out. freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Maybe in a future training, Michael. Maybe in a future training we can do that. Okay, but definitely not today. Okay, so Jeremy, my training is more focused towards startups. Okay, and if you've been in business for a year, I'd still say you're a startup. Okay, but ultimately it is geared more towards startups. But it does have more advanced sales and marketing strategies in there, but it is not specifically a freight broker sales or marketing training course, okay? So it is geared more towards startup, my freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Now, my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is much more an advanced course, right? That's something that if you're brand new to the business and you're just getting up and running, you could definitely use. But if you're already experienced and you're running a brokerage or running a freight agency, that's something you're absolutely going to need. Sales is the heart of this business. If you've been in business since 2020, you know the key to this is is sales, right? You need to learn how to sell. And that's what this Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is for. I could not include all of this in my boot camp. It's just too much information that people are not ready at that stage to consume. You've got to, it's that old adage, right? You got to touch first before you touch second, before you touch third, before you get home, right? And this is definitely more second, third base. And as a startup, you're really just getting to first and starting to head towards second. So I hope that helps. All right, so here's a question from Chris Lee. Potential op to work for company 45 minutes away, starting salary, but need to pay them back. 6 months training pay, then 35 commission per deal, either or position. Wasn't sure to take it or not. All right, so Chris Lee, that's completely up to you. But here's the one thing that would be an absolute no-go in my opinion. If they ask you to sign a non-compete, or something that prevents you from taking your customers with you if you choose to leave, then I wouldn't do it. And in most cases, when they're paying you a salary, they're going to ask you to do that. So 35% commission is not a bad starting deal. It's not a good agent deal, right? So if you're an agent, most freight agents that actually originate the freight and move the freight get paid somewhere between 50 and 70% of the profit on every load. So 35% is very low. It might be an interesting starting point. But again, if they're paying you some sort of a salary or a draw that you've got to repay, now you're an employee. And they're typically, if they're going to ask you for some sort of a non-compete or a no circumvent or no back solicitation on your own clients, then I definitely wouldn't do it. Aman, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/blog and type in the search bar software or TMS. I have an entire article, video, post about that exact question, which is what's the best program to use? I have everything set up, just need the Freight Broker software. Again, I'm not going to tell you what the best program is. I think I give you a list of 10 programs that are out there that are well-known, vetted, and that a lot of students and people that I know in the industry do use. So that would be a resource for you. Okay, so Grenda asked, does an obligation as a freight broker? Okay, freight brokers are not obligated to get a SCAC code, an SCAC, it's called a SCAC code. It is an optional, it's an optional component to being a freight broker. Some shippers, a small percentage of shippers, require a SCAC code, okay? And there is a cost to it. It's not a license. It's just where they issue you a SCAC code. That's it. Actually, I think it's stupid. We had one, but we didn't have one for at least the first couple. I don't think we had one for at least the first year. I know a lot of brokers and agents in here that do business all the time that don't have a SCAC code. If you have a specific shipper that's requiring it, it might be something worth investing in. But in most cases, I wouldn't go out and get a SCAC code unless you absolutely had to, because you're not going to run into it that often. I found that you run into it a lot more on LTL than you do with full truckload, but that was just my own personal experience. So no, it's not required. And again, if you're curious about the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator and you want to get on the wait list, make sure you get on the wait list, because you definitely won't get a chance. You won't even get notified about when I open it unless you are on the wait list. So Phil Jackson asks, would you recommend we have a non-circumvent NDA signed by a carrier to minimize the risk of carrier going around us? My suggestion is you add that into your broker shipper agreement as one clause in the agreement that says they will not back solicit any shipper from you that they've ran a load for, some sort of language like that. And if they do, it's going to cost them X% of whatever revenue that they did, 15 or 20% of whatever revenue that they derived from it. For any time they've back solicited it. Okay. So I would put a no back solicitation shipper clause in your carrier shipper agreement. Okay. You can word that however you want. You could probably find it in other contracts. Maybe pull up CH Robinson or TQL or some other broker, and you'll be able to get their agreement, and you'll be able to find out how they word it. And you might be able to use that there. It'll save you some legal expenses because you know that they've legalese it up. Or just keep something simple in there that just says, carrier agrees not to back solicit any shipper, for X period of time. And if they do, the penalty is X%, something simple like that. You want to keep them honest. Carriers have done that. I had carriers do it to us. It was rare, but we did have carriers do it to us, and we did sue them. So hope that helps. Reality of me. Do you have to own your own trucks? No, most freight brokers do not own trucks. Okay. I didn't own any trucks. I had no interest in owning trucks. I know the challenges from friends in the industry and from carrier partners that we had in owning and managing a fleet. It's very different to own and operate a profitable trucking company versus a profitable freight brokerage. Okay. They're in the same industry, but it's a very different business. A lot harder to make money as a trucker, as an owner operator, as a carrier. Okay. So no, as a freight broker, freight agent, you do not have to have your own trucks. So here's a question from Crystal. Can you work under a broker rather than an agent to start up as an option? Yeah, most freight agents work directly under a licensed broker. So the licensed broker is here, freight agent works directly under them. Now, there are sometimes, sometimes people will become a sub-agent under an agent. So you have the broker, the agent, and then sometimes they will hire sub-agents, okay? So that's a different animal, right? Some people, need that additional help to get operating and get up and running. So they'll sometimes start as a sub-agent under an established agent. But in most cases, if you want to be an agent, go direct to a shipper and work under them. If you're unable to go direct, then you can work under a sub-agent to get started. And then you can always swim upstream later and become a full agent. So I hope that helps. The process of being a freight agent versus a freight broker is almost identical, except a freight broker has to do a couple of things. Number one, a freight broker has to get their license. They have to get their bond and their license, which is a step that an agent doesn't need to do. A freight broker typically has to set up their own transportation management software and systems that the agents can plug into. But agents don't have to do that because they operate typically under the broker's software. Freight brokers, if they're going to get contingent cargo or some sort of insurance, then they're the ones who are responsible for the insurance. Freight agents don't need to do that. So they're very similar, but on the sales and marketing and operational side, freight agents and freight brokers are very similar. But on the day-to-day operations, agents also don't have to do billing or collections. Brokers do, right? They have to do billing, and then they have to collect the receivables and invoices. They got to pay carriers. So there's a lot they got to do on the financials management side. So those are some of the differences. Much, much easier to start as a freight agent, just so you know. Freight broker is very doable. It's just a little bit more complex, takes a little bit more capital, is a little bit harder. So I hope that helps. Reality to me, if you don't have your own trucks, then how can you guarantee the load will be taken? Because you need to do your due diligence on that lane, on that freight before you accept the load. So, if you sound to me like you're very early in this process, Reality and me. So dive into my blog, dive into my YouTube videos. There's a lot of information there, but ultimately, the only assurance that you are going to cover the load is the due diligence that you do up front. The due diligence is typically using load boards where carriers are posting trucks that you can source as a way to define if there's going to be trucks in that lane, if it's a desirable lane, as well as the rate that it's going to cost you to pay a truck. Okay. So that's some of the due diligence that you'll have to do upfront before you quote your shipper, before you accept a load from a shipper. Okay. So if a shipper gave you a lane to go from A to B and you went onto the load boards and you did some research and you couldn't find any trucks in that lane, right, and you couldn't find any real good data in that lane, then you're not going to quote the shipper, because even if you do provide the quote, it doesn't mean you're going to cover the freight, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be able to service them. But on the other hand, if you went into the load boards or you called some carriers and they've got availability of trucks regularly moving that lane, and you've got a really good understanding of what the rate's going to cost you for a truck, you can then take that assurance and you can take that rate and you can mark it up, and then you can quote your shipper. So I hope that helps. Okay, so Trista asked, do you provide mentoring after course is completed, just in case someone gets hung up? We provide online support. We do not provide one-on-one coaching. The cost of that would be astronomical for you, and you probably can't afford it. When I did coaching and consulting, I charged people $30,000 a year for coaching and consulting, one-on-one coaching and consulting. So we do not do one-on-one consulting and coaching, but I do have dedicated online support. If you are a platinum member, you get lifetime access to the training and lifetime support. No matter where you are in your business, 5 years from now, you're doing $20 million and you have a question, you need help, you can message us and we will help. If my support staff doesn't know the answer to the question, they send it to me and then I will respond. Okay. If you're a gold member, you get 1 year full access and you get 1 year full support, right? From our team. And so I hope that helps, right? But we do not do phone consultations. It's all online. Okay. It's the only way that the price that I charge, the low price that I charge, that we can actually, there's just no way to do it outside of that, unless I were to charge, 5 or 10 times what I'm charging now, at least minimal. Hope that helps. Okay, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for today. Listen, if you have a lot of questions, and I appreciate that. I had tons of questions when I first got started. Most of you on this live right now know more about becoming a freight broker, freight agent than I did when I first got started back in 2003. I promise you, I was clueless. I was trying to hobble together information from YouTube and from Google and from online, and it just wasn't gelling together. There wasn't enough information. I hired a consultant, paid over $10,000 for them to come and spend a week with me in Buffalo, poking holes in my plan and teaching me what I didn't know. So again, I went the hard route, the expensive route, okay? But here's what I can tell you. I created Freight Broker Bootcamp as that tool that gives you all the information in one place that you need to quickly and cost effectively get your freight broker, freight agency business up and running. Okay. So you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, we have a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee, trained over 10,000 students. And me as a broker, I've done over $200 million in sales. There's no other trainer out there. I promise you, there's no other freight trainer, freight broker trainer, or freight agent trainer, anybody in the industry that has had that kind of success that also has an online training program. I sold my brokerage back in 2016. I've had a lot more time to dedicate helping students and helping others do the same. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you like and share this live, okay? If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that little bell to make sure you get notified, because I also put out weekly videos beyond the live to help you grow your brokerage. So have an awesome day. Appreciate you guys being here. Congrats to the winners. Try some video in your sales prospecting. I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll see you next week on Monday. Thanks for joining.